In this video I'm quickly going to go over all of the weapons in the game, so I will be covering almost every single one of them, explaining where they can be used and what they do, but of course you need to read them in game as well. Otherwise, do not forget that I am streaming on Twitch also, probably currently as well, every day at 18 UTC or nearby that timer. I mean, come check it out. Also, there's a premium giveaway ongoing, so like this video and leave a comment with your in-game name. Otherwise, let's get into the video. Okay, so as you've probably seen already, there are a lot of weapons in Albion Online. So I'm quickly gonna take some of them apart and explain what it exactly is. Because it's not like a typical MMORPG. You don't just go full plate armor on a tank. As a tank you might go with some plate armor, some leather armor, and finally some cloth armor, but you know, depends on the build of course. Now, let's get into the weapons. The swords, of course, you have the broadsword, basically useless, so let's not look at that. The claymore, basically a solo weapon, I'd say. You can use it in a 1v1, not the best. Dual swords also a 1v1/PvE weapon, not the best, only targets one person at a time. Clarent, this is mostly used as a bombing weapon for, I mean, like decent sized groups, like a 20 man, you can use it to hit the clump. The carving, I mean honestly you can use it everywhere, big groups, small groups, it's really good on its E because you can take resistances away from the clump. Now, the gallant bear, this is mostly a bomber weapon. You take this in a big scale fight, you walk into the enemy backline and you just pop your armor and E. You just wipe so many people. Now the Kingmaker, also I'd say this is a small scale weapon up to a 20 man. Pretty good damage, pretty good engage on it, but you know, there are better things in my opinion. Now the Infinity Blade, I don't know what the fuck this bitch does, but we'll see at the end of the season. Now the Battle Axe, basically a 1v1 weapon or a maximum 3 or 4 people weapon I'd say. I mean, I wouldn't use it in a big scale fight cause it's honestly the shittiest one I could think of. But now onto the Great Axe. The Great Axe, I mean, look at its E ability, who wouldn't want to spin around like a fucking tornado? You can basically kill the whole enemy team with this if you go with a high tier one, but go Stalker Jacket on it. This is used in like 7+ people fights, so small scale to big scale. But now the Halbert. The Halbert is also good in small scale I'd say, and even in big scale if you're using a brawling set. The carrier color is also good. All of the axes are basically good if you go with the turret Q, so tier 6 turret Q, and you can actually root their backline when they're inside of you, so you can catch them really easily. With your Q you take their healing away, with your W you take your healing away, and finally with your E you take their healing away even more. Same with the carrion color, and I think the Infernal Sight is just a lot of damage in a circle around you. Bear Paws is just ganking weapons basically, really small scale or just ganking. Realmbreaker is small scale, so 10+ people, or you can also go in a CVC in a big group to hit the clump. Now under Maces, I'll just go with Collar Mace, Defensive Tank, Shitty Mace, Defensive Tank, PvE Mace, Shitty Tank, and this one is good for small scale and CVC. Now, hammers. I mean, Grovekeeper or Great Hammer are the only ones that you should be looking at if you want to use it in a fight, and Hand of Justice also, because Hand of Justice is the collar weapon, but everything else here basically is PvE or shit right now. So let's go on to gloves. Solo stuff, group stuff. The Spike is used with CVC or small scale. Ursun Maulers is like pretty shit right now I'd say. Hellfire Hands is better, it's pure DPS, does a lot of damage, so I use this. The same with Clarence basically, it's just for extra DPS to kill the clump. Raven Strike, a bombing weapon, not the best right now, but it's still viable. Fist of Avalonian, used for really small scale, I wouldn't do it personally. Crossbows, PvE, 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 shitty PvP, shitty PvP. The Energy Shaper does damage over time, so I wouldn't use it. People can pop demon armor, so just, you know, use defensive or walk out of it. Siege Bow, I mean basically the same, slow damage, not the best. But you can also fuck up with it, hit the demons and kill yourself. That was not a recommendation, that is what happens when you pop it. Now you have the bows. The only viable weapon here right now is the Mistpiercer. It is a bit of a slow DPS, but it does a lot of damage if you come high tier with it, and better than longbow, or at least having multiple ones, because I feel like longbows get killed the most, because only people who play longbow mainly are shitters. Now the daggers, Bloodleather, if you go tier 8.1 equivalent, you're honestly pretty good, you're gonna execute someone. Demon Fang is pretty good as well in my opinion for a brawl comp. I'm also gonna get comps later in this video. Bridled Fury, one shot comp, pretty strong in my opinion, does a lot of damage. In the spears, only one we really need to look at is the Spirit Hunter, because this is used mainly for fights and PvP. And I think Heron Spear is ganking, and there's honestly nothing else to see. Everything else here is just 1v1s. So the Spear, Pike, Daybreaker, Glaive, honestly Trinity Spear as well. The Quarterstaffs, basically nothing here honestly. Staff of Balance, Soul Sight and Grail Seeker are good for CVZ, so big scale fights or small scale. Black Monk Staff is good for PvE, Double Bladed is good for ganking. Quarterstaff Ironclad, I don't know who the fuck uses that. Now the Shapeshifters, the weapons that, I mean, basically haven't gotten nerfed, so I'd honestly say it's kind of fucked. But the Prowling Staff 1v1's best. I mean, if you're in the Panther form you take a lot of damage, but it does so much damage that it's just too good. Now the Rootbound Staff. The Rootbound Staff, best support in small scale or CVC. You basically turn into a tree. Your W just protects your whole team. They don't get crowd controlled, they don't get killed. It's just the best thing you could have. The Bear, kind of suspicious in my opinion, good for like a shitter fight. Blood Moon Staff, I mean, I'd say also good for a shitter fight, there are better options. Hellspawn, this is basically used for, I think, Hellgates 2v2s, it does a lot of damage, so it is still viable. The Earth Rune, I mean, it's pretty good in my opinion. You can clump a lot of people with your W, and it's a really good engage tank, you can knock them up as well. But now the Light Color, it's good for bombing, its W, I mean, it cannot be reflected, so you can't die to demon armors. But if you go with an 8.1 equivalent, I mean, say goodbye to the enemy team, honestly. There's nothing they can do. Now onto the nature staffs. Honestly, I think the Blight Staff is the best one here. Ironwood is used for average, PvE. Rampant Staff, it's pretty shit as well in my opinion. Druidic Staff, Wild Staff. Great Nature is good for a 3-man because, I mean, as the E says, it heals you a lot. The Nature Staff, I'd say this isn't the best, so I'm not gonna even cover it. Let's go on to Pyromancer. Dawn Song is good for anti-heal. Blazing is good for PvE. Brimstone is kind of shitty now, but it's still viable for Bomb Squad. So the Wildfire Staff is still usable in really small scale, I'd say, like 3 people to 10. I mean, it's pretty shitty, but it's still usable. Other Fire Staffs are just 1v1s, or I wouldn't use them at all. The Priest, I mean, Fallen's good for CVC or small scale. Actually, small scale Hallowfall is better, but Fallen is still usable. And I think the Vine Staff is also good for PvE. Great Hole is good for PvE. Holy Staff's good for PvE, maybe Hellgates, I'm not sure anymore. But, you know, they're all viable since they're healers. The Arcanist, the best one is the Locust or Enigmatic, because with the Locust you can help your whole team avoid getting CC'd. With the Occult Staff, you can run into enemies faster or run away, I mean do what you want. Witchwork is used for bombing, you can clump a lot of people instantly with it, so easy peasy lemon squeezy. Enigmatic Staff, you basically shield all of your allies near that one you targeted. This basically helps everyone survive the clump, not get killed. Great Arcane, this is used for defensive tank. You can basically freeze all enemies so they can't push through you or do anything against you. One-handed Arcane, this is good for PvP and PvE. You can silence players or mobs. I mean, I'd say it's pretty good because you can silence the whole clump with it. So, I mean, GG basically, right? Frost Staffs, Permafrost, my fucking favorite. It hits the clump like a truck. It basically kills every clump if you have 2. But, you know, there are other Frost Staffs as well that are viable. Chill Howl, I mean, basically good for 1v1 skanking. Icicle, I mean, I'd say it's pretty good on its E. You can basically just slow people so they can't push into you. Hoarfrost, I don't know who the fuck uses this. Glacial is also decent because it can also act as a bombing weapon or some kind of, I don't know, retarded thing. Glacial is pretty shit though, so I wouldn't use it. Great Frost Staff is also shit. Frost Staff is good for 1v1s in mists. Now the normal Curse Staff, good for 1v1s. Great Curse Staff, I don't know why I don't use it. Don't use it as well. Life Curse, I mean it's good, it's really good in small scale and CVC because you can actually take away buffs, so purge all of the enemies. It's good if you want to make a clump or if you want to hit it. Curse Skull is good for shitter PvP, I'd say. Damnation, it's really good in small scale and CVC because it acts like a carving but it's long range, so if you play it correctly it's really good. Shadow Color, usually this is PvE. I don't really see people in PvP with it, it's pretty shit in PvP. But now, let's go on to the comps. So here we have the clap and slap Rayos comp. So basically, you have a clap comp where you use, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 death tanks, 1 shot caller, 1 battle mount, 3 supports, 4 healers, and finally 6 DPS. So you basically hit your enemies and you run. That's what clap and kite is. So clap and slap, basically the same thing. You hit onto the shot caller and then you fucking run with Locust. Like, you basically hit, walk away, reset cooldowns, hit, walk away, reset cooldowns. It's the same thing. You just need to kite correctly, make sure no one gets caught. But I mean, this is a pretty strong comp, but in the black zone most people will just take 20 minutes to fight because everyone's just playing correctly on defensives and shit like that. But you do have to use your blink boots to get out of clumps or shit like that if you're getting hit as a healer, tank or support. But otherwise, it's just decent, you know. I wouldn't say clap and kite is the best. I like brawl and clap. Brawl and clap is much cooler. You walk into the enemy backline, you beat them, you create pressure, you make them stress out, they can't do shit because they're panicking, and then you drop DPS. You're just gonna walk into them, let your death tanks hold them still. You're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 death tanks, 4 healers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 DPS, 2 supports and a battle mount. I mean, it's just so strong. You walk into the enemies, you stack bleach, you don't let them heal, don't let them chill, you just abuse them. I mean, this is basically a counter to the clap and kite, but this is just too strong to not use, I'd say. You can literally just abuse all of your enemies if you play it correctly, and while you're inside of them, they have no idea where you're going to clap. With clap and kite, they see where your color's coming, but if you're inside of them, they can't really see where the color is at. So, I'd say this is my favorite comp. And with that, I'd say, see you later, alligator.
Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond.
Twilight and the beautiful sea, I chose to be happy. You and I, we're like diamonds in the sky. You're a shooting star, I see, a vision of ecstasy. When you hold me, I'm alive. We're like diamonds in the sky.